My name is Eleanor Harper, but everyone calls me Ellie. At 67, I thought I'd weathered every storm life could throw my way: widowhood, raising the daughter alone, the quiet loneliness of empty nest syndrome. I was wrong. It all unraveled on a Tuesday that felt ordinary in Savannah, Georgia, where the air hung heavy with the scent of magnolias and the promise of rain. I was in the kitchen, brewing my afternoon tea when a strange smell crept into the room. Sharp, acrid, like burning plastic. I figured it was the old toaster acting up again, so I set my cup down and went to investigate. The living room was a nightmare. Smoke billowed in thick clouds, choking the air, and flames licked up the curtains, racing across the walls with a hunger I couldn't comprehend. I froze, my heart pounding as the heat seared my face. The smoke detector should have wailed, but I later learned its battery had died unnoticed, a small neglect that cost me everything. Panic gripped me, but instinct kicked in. I stumbled back to the kitchen, grasping for the phone, but the smoke was everywhere, clawing at my lungs, clouding my mind. Glass shattered somewhere deep in the house, and I knew I had seconds. The flames roared, devouring the furniture, the photos, the life I'd built for 45 years. My only thought was survival. I snatched my purse from the counter and bolted for the front door. The last image burned into my memory: the portrait of James, my late husband, curling and blackening in the fire's grip. I burst outside, coughing, my eyes streaming, as neighbors gathered in the street. Mr. Callahan, my 70-year-old neighbor with a limp from an old injury, was the first to reach me, wrapping me in his jacket as we watched the fire consume the home where I'd raised my daughter, where James and I had laughed and loved. The fire department arrived within 15 minutes, but it was too late. They fought valiantly, saving the houses on either side, but mine was a skeleton of charred wood and ash within an hour. 45 years of memories, the dining table where Lily did her school projects, the walls marked with her height as she grew, the bedroom where James held me through sleepless nights. Gone. I stood on the sidewalk, draped in a blanket someone had given me, as firefighters doused the smoldering ruins. The chief approached, his face streaked with soot, his voice gentle but firm. "I'm sorry, ma'am. It's a total loss." I didn't need him to say more. I saw it. The life I'd known reduced to nothing but the clothes on my back and the contents of my purse. The neighbors took me in that night. Mr. Callahan offered his spare room, but his house was cramped with his grandson visiting. The Red Cross set up shelters, but the idea of sleeping among strangers in a crowded gym felt like another loss. That's when I knew I had to call Lily. My daughter lived 50 minutes away, in Hilton Head, South Carolina, in a sleek, modern home she'd bought after her divorce. We weren't close. Years of missed calls and strained holidays had built a wall between us. But she was my only family. I borrowed Mr. Callahan's phone, my hands shaking as I dialed. "Lily, it's Mom," I said, my voice cracking. "Mom, what's wrong?" Her tone was sharp, impatient. "There was a fire. The house is gone. Everything's gone." A long silence followed, heavy with unspoken tension. "Are you hurt?" "No, just some smoke in my lungs, a few bruises, but I need a place to stay, just for a while, until the insurance sorts things out." Another pause, then, "Okay, Mom, come over. We'll figure it out." Relief flooded me so strong I nearly wept. My daughter would help me. Despite our distance, she was still my girl. The next morning, I lingered at the ruins, waiting for the insurance adjuster. He arrived at 10, a young man with a clipboard, his expression detached as he surveyed the wreckage. "Total loss," he said as if it were a routine report. "How much?" I asked, dreading the answer. "You had a $250,000 policy, but with depreciation and your deductible, you're looking at maybe $100,000, give or take." $100,000 to rebuild a lifetime. It felt like a cruel joke. Mr. Callahan helped me buy basics: clothes, toiletries, with the Red Cross emergency funds. Everything I owned now fit into a borrowed duffel bag. That was it. My life, packed into a single, sad bundle. The drive to Lily's house was surreal. The familiar streets of Savannah, the bakery where James bought my birthday cake, the park where we walked hand in hand, now belonged to a past I couldn't reclaim. Lily's neighborhood was pristine, with manicured lawns and houses that gleamed with new money. Her home, a two-story glass and wood structure, stood out with its sharp lines and modern charm. I had met her fiancé, Paul, only twice in the year they'd been together.
He was 38, she was 43, a software developer with a polished demeanor that always made me feel out of place. I stepped out of the cab, clutching my duffel, and knocked on her door. Lily opened it, her face tight, her eyes avoiding mine. "Mom," she said, stepping aside, but her voice carried a note of reluctance. Paul appeared behind her, his arms crossed, his smile forced. "Ellie, terrible about the house." He glanced at my bag. "It's just temporary," I said quickly, "until the insurance comes through." They exchanged a look, a silent agreement that excluded me. "Let's talk," Lily said, leading me to the living room. The room was immaculate. White leather sofa, glass tables, art on the walls that looked expensive but cold. I sat on the edge of the couch, my cheap shoes scuffing the pristine floor. Lily and Paul sat across from me, a united front. "So, what's the plan?" Lily asked, her tone businesslike. "The insurance will take a few weeks, maybe a month. I was hoping to stay here until I find an apartment." The silence that followed was suffocating. Lily's jaw tightened and Paul leaned closer to her, his hand on her knee. "Mom," Lily began, her voice hesitant, "Paul and I need our space. This is our first home together, and we're still settling in." I blinked, stunned. "I wouldn't intrude. I'd stay out of your way, help with chores." "It's not about that," Paul cut in, his voice smooth but firm. "We need privacy. Maybe a hotel would be better for you, somewhere you can have your own space." "A hotel," I said, my voice rising. "I'm your mother, Lily. After everything I did, raising you alone, working 2 jobs to send you to college?" She looked away, her face hardening. "We think you'd be happier on your own," she said. "Paul knows a place near the beach, decent rates." The words hit like a slap. I stared at my daughter, the girl I'd rocked through fevers, taught to read, supported through her divorce. "You're turning me away," I said flatly. "We're not," Lily protested. "We just think it's best." "Best for who?" I asked, standing, my knees creaking. "I lost my home, my life, and you're worried about your privacy?" Paul offered a weak smile. "We can help with a few $100s to get you started." A few hundred, as if I were a stranger, not the woman who gave her everything. I picked up my duffel, the weight crushing. "I understand," I said, my voice steady despite the ache. "Mom, don't be like that," Lily called, but I was already at the door. I walked out, the perfect house fading behind me, and stood on the sidewalk, lost. I checked into a cheap motel with the last of my cash, the room dingy with peeling wallpaper and a sagging bed. Sitting there, I remembered a faded letter I'd kept for 40 years, tucked in my purse, from Thomas Langling, my first love. He'd promised to return, to build a life with me. Life had other plans, but now, with nothing left, I dialed the number on that yellowed paper. The phone rang twice. "Langley Enterprises, Tom speaking." His voice, deeper now but familiar, stopped my breath. "Tom, it's Ellie Harper. I know it's been forever, but my house burned down, and my daughter won't take me in. I have nowhere to go." "Ellie?" His voice softened, incredulous. "Where are you?" "I'm coming to get you." I gave him the address and my heart racing. An hour later, a black SUV pulled up and Tom stepped out. Gray-haired, lines on his face, but those hazel eyes unchanged. "You finally came home," he said, and my world shifted.
Tom's house in Charleston, South Carolina was a revelation. Stone and timber, elegant yet warm, with gardens that spoke of care. I stepped inside, my duffel bag a stark contrast to the polished floors and soft lighting. "Are you hungry?" Tom asked, leading me to a kitchen that dwarfed my old one. I nodded, my stomach growling after days of motel food. He cooked steak and mashed potatoes with a skill that surprised me, and we ate at a table overlooking his garden. "Tell me about your life," he said, his hazel eyes on me. I spoke of James, steady and kind, of Lily, who'd grown distant, of the fire that stole my past. Tom listened, his silence a comfort. "I'm sorry," he said finally, "but I'm glad you called." "Why?" I asked, my voice small. He took my hand, his grip warm. "Because I never stopped loving you. Every building I made, every success was to be worthy of you." His words unraveled me, and I cried, letting 40 years of pain spill out.
He held me, whispering, "You should have called sooner." We settled into a rhythm: breakfast on the porch, walks in the garden, evenings by the fire. Tom shared his story: his construction empire, the women he dated but never married, always missing something. "I called off a wedding once because my heart was yours," he said. I told him of my loneliness after James, the years of fading into widowhood. 3 weeks in, Lily called. "Mom, where are you? We've reconsidered. You can stay in our guest room." I looked at Tom's kitchen, at the life I was building. I'm happy where I am, with someone who values me.
5 months later, Tom and I married in his garden, a simple ceremony with his housekeeper and a friend as witnesses. Lily came, alone, her eyes calculating Tom's wealth. But I saw her as my daughter, not a stranger. Now, at 68, I wake in Tom's arms, the garden outside, coffee brewing. The fire took my old life, but it gave me this: love, seen, chosen. The letter from Tom, framed on his desk, reminds me that some promises endure.